25 empty chairs on my side of the aisle, white chairs, afternoon light. Not a single family member sitting in any of them. They were 1,847 miles away at a resort in Miami Beach, celebrating my sister's birthday. A birthday moved up a month to fall on the exact same day as my wedding. The trip was paid for by my sister's boyfriend, a man I'd told my family was a fraud. They chose to believe him over me. He disappeared the next morning. The resort bill was $47,000. When the hotel posted a video of my mother screaming at the front desk because she couldn't pay, I recognized the lobby, the chandelier, the gold W behind the reception desk. It was my husband's hotel. If this story speaks to you, I'd love for you to subscribe and stay with me. It only gets wilder from here. My name is Wren Sullivan, and this is the story my family wishes I'd never tell. My name is Wren Sullivan. I grew up in a house in Minneapolis where the fridge had two shelves, one for Brooke's organic smoothie ingredients and one for everything else. It wasn't labeled. It didn't need to be. My mother arranged it that way when Brooke was 16 and decided she was going to become an influencer, and nobody ever questioned it the same way. Nobody questioned why Brooke's bedroom was twice the size of mine, or why her car was a graduation gift, and mine was a Craigslist find I paid for with 3 summers of babysitting money. The Sullivan house sat on a quiet street in Edina, just south of Minneapolis. Split-level beige siding a lawn my father mowed every Saturday in silence. From the outside, it looked like every other house on the block. From the inside, it operated on a set of rules that were never spoken aloud, but understood by everyone who lived there. Rule 1. Brooke came first, not in a dramatic made-for-TV way. In the small, ordinary, erosive way that grinds a person down over decades. Her 16th birthday was a party for 40 people at a rooftop restaurant downtown. Mine was a card on the kitchen counter and a promise, "We'll do something next weekend, Wren," that expired without anyone noticing. When Brooke graduated college with a 2.4 GPA and a degree she never used, my mother threw a party with a balloon arch and a 3-tier cake from the French bakery on Lyndale. When I graduated summa cum laude from the University of Minnesota, my father came alone. He sat in the back row. My mother had a thing with Brooke, a salon emergency. She called it later. She never specified what kind of emergency requires both a mother and daughter on a Saturday afternoon in May. I won a regional design competition when I was 24. My submission was a branding package for a nonprofit literacy program, logo, color system, typography, the whole thing. First place out of 312 entries. I called my mother that evening. She said, "That's great, honey. Hey, can you help Brooke with her Instagram layout this weekend? She's rebranding." Brooke had 38,000 followers. She posted flat lays of smoothie bowls and tagged brands that never wrote back. My mother called this Brooke's career. She called what I did Wren's computer thing. The message was never spoken out loud. It didn't need to be. I heard it in every seating arrangement, every birthday budget, every skipped graduation. Brooke was the investment. I was the operating cost. My father, Gary, 59, staff accountant at a mid-sized logistics firm, existed in the house the way furniture exists. Present, functional, silent. He wasn't cruel. He just wasn't anything. When my mother made a decision, he nodded. When she didn't ask his opinion, he didn't offer it. I used to think he was keeping the peace. I realized later he was keeping his distance, and those aren't the same thing. I met Caleb Whitmore at the Mill City Farmers Market on a Saturday in September. He was behind a food truck called Evergreen Kitchen, plating roasted cauliflower tacos with cashew crema and pickled onions. I ordered 2. He gave me 3 and said the third was a business expense because I looked like someone who'd appreciate a good onion. He drove a 2017 Honda CR-V with a dent in the passenger door he never fixed. He wore Henley shirts and jeans that smelled faintly like rosemary. He told me he ran a small chain of plant-based restaurants, 3 locations in the Twin Cities, and that his goal was to make vegetables interesting enough that people stopped apologizing for eating them. I laughed more in that first hour than I had in 6 months. We started dating. It was easy the way breathing is easy when you stop holding your breath. I brought him to Sunday dinner 3 weeks later. My mother opened the door, looked at his CRV in the driveway, and said nothing. At the table, she asked what he did. I run a few restaurants, Caleb said. Restaurants. My mother tilted her head. Like, you cook vegetables for a living? She laughed, a small, light, perfectly calibrated laugh, not mean enough to call out, mean enough to land. Brooke filmed his roasted beet salad and posted it to her story with a crying, laughing emoji and the caption, "My sister's boyfriend made us rabbit food." Caleb didn't react. On the drive home, he held my hand and said, "They don't have to like me. You do." What my family didn't know, what I didn't tell them because Caleb asked me not to, was that his parents owned Whitmore Hospitality Group. 14 luxury resorts and boutique hotels along the eastern seaboard and the Gulf Coast. His mother, Eleanor, was a Georgetown-educated businesswoman who'd built the brand from 2 beachfront properties into a hospitality empire valued at more than I could process without feeling dizzy. Caleb had walked away from all of it. Not in anger, in principle. He wanted to build something with his hands. He wanted to be known for what he made, not what he inherited. So he opened Evergreen Kitchen with his own savings, drove a dented CRV, and let people assume whatever they wanted. My family assumed he was nobody. 3 months later, Brooke brought someone new to Sunday dinner. His name was Logan Price. He arrived in a charcoal BMW leased, though nobody checked, wearing a slim-fit vest, a Tag Heuer watch, and the kind of confidence that fills a room before the person does. He talked about crypto the way pastors talk about salvation, with absolute certainty and zero tolerance for doubt. "I've been generating 40% returns quarterly," he told my father over pot roast. "Consistent, verified, exclusive fund. I only bring in people I trust." My mother's eyes went bright. My father leaned forward for the first time in years. Logan looked across the table at Caleb. "And what do you do, man?" "I run a few restaurants." "Cool." Logan smiled. "Like franchise stuff?" "Something like that." Logan turned back to my father and kept talking returns, projections, compound growth. My mother hung on every syllable. Brooke held Logan's arm like she'd won something. I watched him. The numbers were wrong. 40% quarterly didn't exist outside of fraud. I'd read enough to know that. I said nothing at the table because I'd learned that nobody at that table listened when I spoke. That night, I Googled Logan Price. The first 3 results were LinkedIn profiles that didn't match. The fourth was a blank LLC registered in Delaware 6 weeks ago. I closed my laptop and stared at the ceiling. Something was wrong. I just couldn't prove it yet. Logan called it a once-in-a-generation opportunity. My mother called it our family's future. I called it exactly what it was: a scam dressed in a charcoal suit. It started 2 weeks after that Sunday dinner. Logan invited my parents to what he called an investor preview at a co-working space in downtown Minneapolis, the kind with exposed brick and pour-over coffee, and conference rooms you rent by the hour. He'd set up a projector, 47 slides, charts that curved upward like ski jumps, testimonials from clients whose last names didn't return results on Google. My mother sat in the front row like she was at church. Logan's pitch was simple: an exclusive cryptocurrency investment fund. Minimum buy-in $25,000. Returns of 40% per quarter. Guaranteed, verified, backed by blockchain technology. He said blockchain 11 times in 47 slides. He never once explained what it meant. My father asked one question: when do we see returns? Logan smiled. 90 days, like clockwork. My mother didn't ask any questions. She asked for the wire transfer details. The following Sunday, Caleb offered to cook dinner for the whole family at Evergreen Kitchen. He'd been testing a new autumn menu: roasted squash with tahini, a mushroom Wellington, a pear tart with cardamom cream. He wanted to do something generous. That was the thing about Caleb. He kept offering warmth to people who kept handing it back cold. Logan came. Of course he came. He walked through the restaurant, 40 seats, reclaimed wood tables, herbs growing on the windowsills, Edison bulbs casting amber light on the craft paper menus, and looked around the way you look around a child's bedroom. Amused? Briefly. "This is cute," he said loud enough for the table to hear. "Really? Like a little passion project." My mother smiled. Brooke filmed the plates and didn't post them. Halfway through dinner, Logan leaned toward my father and said, "No offense, Gary, but you can't build wealth selling kale bowls. I made more last quarter than this place grosses in a year." My father nodded like he'd been told something wise. Logan turned to Caleb. "Bro, serious question, what's your 5-year plan? Because this—" He waved his hand across the room, across the menu. Caleb had spent 4 months developing the kitchen he'd built with his savings, the tables where real people sat every night and left full and happy. "This isn't it." Caleb set his fork down, looked at Logan for 3 seconds. "I'm exactly where I want to be." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't elaborate. He picked his fork back up and finished his Wellington. Under the table, I held his hand. It wasn't shaking. Mine was. The irony sat in my chest like a hot coal. Logan was sitting in a restaurant owned by a man whose family owned 14 luxury resorts, sipping free wine, eating free food, and calling it a passion project. And everyone at that table believed him over the person actually building something real. I called my mother 3 days later. I'd spent those 3 days pulling every thread I could find. Logan's LLC had been registered in Delaware 6 weeks before he met Brooke. The address listed was a virtual office, a mail forwarding service in Wilmington. There was no SEC registration, no FINRA license. The fund had no audited returns. The testimonials on his slide deck linked to social media profiles with stock photos. I laid it all out for her, calmly, clearly, the way you present findings to a client who hired you for the truth. She listened for 90 seconds. Then she said, "You've always been jealous of your sister." "Mom, this isn't about Brooke. Logan has vision. Your boyfriend sells lettuce. Don't confuse your limitations with everyone else's." She hung up. That evening, Brooke texted me. "Stop trying to ruin this for me. You had your chance to be happy. Let me have mine." I texted my father. 3 paragraphs. Everything I'd found. Links. Screenshots. A summary written in the plainest English I could manage. He read it at 9:47 p.m. The blue check marks appeared. He never replied. 2 days later, my mother called. Not to apologize. She said Logan was presenting his full investment portfolio to the family on Saturday. Everyone was expected. "Bring your checkbook," she said. "This is your chance to prove you're still part of this family." Saturday came. Logan brought a projector and a pitch deck with 47 slides. My mother brought her checkbook. I brought the truth. Only one of us was asked to leave. The living room of the Sullivan house had been rearranged. The coffee table pushed aside. Folding chairs borrowed from the garage. My mother had set out a cheese board from Trader Joe's, the kind she bought for occasions, and a bottle of Prosecco that cost $11. She was investing in the ambiance of being invested in. Logan stood at the front of the room like a keynote speaker at a conference nobody had paid to attend. The projector threw blue light across the wall, charts, graphs, arrows pointing to the upper right corner of every slide. A photo of a glass office building that I later reverse image searched to a stock photo site, $3.99 for the high-res version. He started talking. Returns, compound growth, proprietary algorithm, institutional grade security. My mother leaned forward in her chair. My father had his reading glasses on, squinting at numbers he didn't understand, but trusted anyway, because the man presenting them drove a BMW. This is the opportunity, Logan said, clicking to a slide that showed a house, a sprawling modern estate on a cliffside. 12 months from now, this is your family's new home. I'm personally guaranteeing it. My mother looked at my father. He nodded. She wrote a check. $85,000, their share of the house sale plus 3 years of savings. She signed it with the same pen she used for birthday cards, a gold Mont Blanc knockoff from TJ Maxx. My father pulled out a separate document. He'd taken an early withdrawal from his 401k. $40,000, minus the 10% penalty, minus the tax hit. He slid it across the table like a man pushing chips to the center of a poker game he couldn't afford. Total family investment $187,000. Life savings, retirement. The house they'd lived in for 26 years converted to a number on a wire transfer. Logan turned to me. He smiled the way car salesmen smile when they've already sold 3 vehicles that morning. And you, Wren family discount 30,000 gets you into the inner circle. I opened my laptop. I want to show you something first. The room shifted. My mother's jaw tightened. Logan's smile held, but his eyes moved quick, calculating. I turned the screen toward them. The LLC registration 6 weeks old. The virtual office address in Delaware. The SEC database showing 0 registration for any fund under Logan's name or any name connected to his company. The FINRA broker check empty. The testimonials from his pitch deck cross-referenced with stock photo databases. 3 matches. The client, named Richard Torres, was a headshot you could buy for $2.99. 40% quarterly returns don't exist, I said. Not legally, not sustainably. The SEC considers guaranteed returns a red flag for securities fraud. His company has no auditor, no compliance officer, and no verifiable track record. 4 seconds of silence. Logan laughed. Light. Easy. Babe, your sister watches too many Netflix documentaries. My mother stood up. Enough, Wren. Mom, this is a textbook. I said enough. Her voice dropped. Cold. Controlled. The voice she used when she wanted a room to stop breathing. You sit in this house, eat our food, and disrespect the man who's trying to give this family a future, while your boyfriend can't even afford to take you to a real restaurant. His restaurant. A salad bar, Wren. He runs a salad bar. And you have the nerve to question a man who's offering us generational wealth because you Googled something. I looked at my father. He was studying his hands. I looked at Brooke. She was looking at Logan. I looked at Logan. He was looking at me, and behind the smile, behind the charm, I saw it. The flat, still calm of someone who knows exactly what he's doing and has done it before. My father cleared his throat. The room turned to him. For 1/2 second, I thought he was going to say something real, something that acknowledged the printouts on my screen, the math that didn't add up, the daughter who'd done the work nobody else bothered to do. Maybe you should go, Wren, he said. He didn't look at me. Let everyone cool down. My mother pointed toward the door. Don't come back until you learn what family means. I closed my laptop. I stood up. I looked around the room one last time. Logan leaned back in his chair, arms folded, smiling. Brooke stared at the floor. My father studied his hands like they belonged to someone else. I walked to the front door. I didn't slam it. I pulled it shut behind me gently until the latch caught with a soft click. The click of a door closing on 30 years of trying. Caleb was waiting in the car. He didn't ask what happened. He just looked at my face and said, "Come here." I leaned into him. The engine was off. The windows were down. Somewhere on the block, a lawnmower hummed. I told them, I said. They chose him. Caleb put his hand on the back of my head. Then they chose. 3 weeks later, Brooke posted in the family group chat. She was moving her birthday up by a month to March 15th, the same day as my wedding. Logan's leaving for Singapore right after, she wrote, It's the only weekend that works. 22 people replied with heart emojis. I wasn't one of them. I sent 23 invitations. Hand addressed. Gold ink on cream cardstock. The venue was 40 minutes from my parents' house. The RSVP deadline passed on a Tuesday. My mailbox stayed empty. Birchwood Meadow sat on 12 acres of rolling grassland west of Minneapolis. White birch trees lined the ceremony path. The arbor was draped in wildflowers, lavender, and baby's breath, and the late afternoon light came through the branches the way it does in places that were built for promises. I'd chosen it because it was beautiful and because it was close. 40 minutes. No flights, no hotels, no excuses. Caleb's side filled by 3 o'clock. His mother Eleanor sat in the front row in a cream silk blazer, her silver hair pinned back with a pearl clip she told me had belonged to her mother. Caleb's brother flew in from Portland, his business partner, his college roommate, 2 chefs from Evergreen Kitchen who'd closed their stations early to make it. 30 chairs, 30 people. My side had Margot, 2 college friends, a former co-worker from my first design job, a neighbor from my apartment building who'd watched my cat once and never forgot my birthday. 5 people. 25 empty chairs. The wedding planner, a kind woman named Dana who'd been professionally cheerful all morning, touched my elbow and whispered, "Should we rearrange? Move some guests over." I looked at those chairs. The afternoon light hit them like a photograph. "Leave them. I want to remember." Eleanor found me 10 minutes before the ceremony. She was holding a small bouquet of white peony stems wrapped in lace. "Something borrowed," she said. "My mother carried these at her wedding in 1962. Well, not these exact ones, but the same arrangement. I had the florist match them." She pinned a single stem behind my ear and held my face in both hands. "You look like you belong exactly where you are," I cried. Not from sadness, from the sudden, sharp recognition that a woman I'd known for 14 months had just done something my own mother hadn't done in 29 years, showed up and made me feel like I mattered. The ceremony was simple. A string quartet from the university played Debussy. Caleb read vows he'd written on a napkin at the restaurant, his handwriting slanted and cramped and perfect. I read mine from memory because I'd been rehearsing them in my head for months without realizing it. "I choose you," I said, "not because I have no one else, because you're the one worth choosing." 5 people clapped on my side. 25 chairs stayed silent, and it was enough. After the ceremony, while guests drank Minnesota sparkling wine under the birch trees, Margot pulled me aside. She held up her phone. Her face was careful. "Don't look at this if you're not ready." I took the phone. Instagram. My mother's account. Posted 47 minutes ago. A photo from a resort pool, turquoise water, palm trees, a cocktail in a coconut shell. Caption, "Nothing but the best for my baby girl." I scrolled. Brooke's account selfie in a white sundress on a marble balcony, ocean behind her. Birthday queen. Logan's account, champagne on a beach cabana. Only the finest for my queen. My Aunt Rachel, who lived 20 minutes from Birchwood Meadow, had posted a photo of herself in a resort bathrobe. She'd flown to Miami Beach for a birthday party. She couldn't drive 40 minutes for a wedding. Then I opened the family group chat. I'd muted it weeks ago, but never left. My mother had posted that morning, 10:14 a.m., while I was having my hair done in a farmhouse getting ready to marry the man I loved. "Wish Wren could be here, but she's busy with her little ceremony. She'll be fine. She always is." 11 heart reactions, 2 laughing emojis, 0 objections. I found out later that my cousin Derek, the only one who didn't react, had screenshotted the message and forwarded it to me. It arrived in my inbox that evening. I didn't see it until after the reception, after the sparklers, after Caleb and I slow danced on the meadow while the string quartet played something I couldn't name but will never forget. I saw it sitting in the passenger seat of Caleb's CRV, still in my dress, holding a bouquet that was already starting to wilt. I read my mother's words on a 4-inch screen and the wildflowers blurred. She'll be fine. She always is. 1,847 miles. They drove 1,847 miles to a resort in Miami Beach for a birthday party. They couldn't drive 40 minutes to Birchwood Meadow for my wedding. I saved the screenshot. I saved every Instagram post. I saved every RSVP that never came. I put them in a folder on my Google Drive and named it what Margot had told me to name it months ago before I understood why. Receipts. 4 days later, Brooke posted one final photo from Miami Beach. Her and Logan on the sand at sunset, his arm around her waist. Caption: "He promised me the world. Off to Singapore tomorrow to close the biggest deal of his life. See you in 3 weeks, baby." He didn't come back in 3 weeks. He didn't come back at all. For 2 weeks after the wedding, my life was the quietest it had ever been. No group chat, no Sunday dinners, no comparison. Just Caleb coffee and a silence that felt like breathing for the first time. We fell into a rhythm. Mornings, I worked from the kitchen table, client logos, brand decks, a packaging redesign for a local honey company that wanted to look artisanal, but not pretentious. Caleb left for the restaurant by 7, came home smelling like roasted garlic and lemongrass, and made dinner from whatever he'd tested that day. We ate on the couch. We didn't talk about my family. It wasn't avoidance. It was rest. Margot called on a Thursday. "How are you?" "Quiet," I said. "It's strange." "Quiet isn't strange. Quiet is what happens when people stop hurting you." She paused. "Save everything they sent. Every text, every voicemail, every RSVP decline. You never know." I already had. The folder on my Google Drive had grown screenshots, scanned cards, a mileage comparison I'd made at 2 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. 1,847 miles to Miami Beach. 40 minutes to Birchwood Meadow. I didn't know what I'd do with it. I just knew it had weight. That Saturday, Eleanor invited us for dinner at her home in Wayzata, a stone colonial on Lake Minnetonka, with a kitchen bigger than my apartment. She made bouillabaisse from scratch and poured a Sancerre that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. We sat at her dining table, the lake silver through the windows, and she asked me about my work the way nobody in my family ever had, with actual questions and actual listening. "Caleb told me you've been picking up new clients," she said, ladling soup into my bowl. "That honey company, did they go with your design?" "They did. Launching next month." "Good. You're talented, Wren. Not as a compliment, as a fact." She refilled my glass and said something else almost in passing, the way you mentioned the weather. "The Miami property is one of ours, you know. The Whitmore Grand. Caleb's father built it in 2001. Beautiful building. Terrible parking." I filed it away. I didn't know yet why it would matter. Day 18 after the wedding. I was sketching a logo concept when my phone buzzed. The family group chat, I'd muted it, but never left. "Brooke, has anyone heard from Logan? He was supposed to land yesterday." Day 20. Diane. "Logan's phone is off. Brooke is worried. Has anyone talked to him?" Day 22. My father called. His name on my screen felt like finding a spider on your pillow, unexpected and immediately wrong. "Wren." His voice was thin. "Have you heard from Logan?" "No, Dad. We can't reach him. It's been a week. The money?" A long pause. I could hear him breathing. "The money's gone, isn't it?" I closed my eyes. "I told you, Dad." Silence. The sound of a man standing in the rubble of a decision he let someone else make. Then a shuffle. A grab. My mother's voice, sharp, breathless, like she'd snatched the phone mid-sentence. "This is not the time for 'I told you so,' Wren. If you'd invested like everyone else, we would have had enough capital and Logan wouldn't have needed to—" She stopped. Even she couldn't finish that sentence. I waited. 3 seconds. 4. Goodbye, Mom. Click. I set the phone on the table. Caleb was in the doorway, dish towel over his shoulder. They lost everything, I said, and they still found a way to blame me. He didn't argue. He didn't comfort. He just sat across from me and waited for the next thing, whatever it was going to be. The next morning, Brooke's Instagram went dark. All the birthday photos, the resort selfies, the sunset shot with Logan deleted. In their place, a single story, a black screen with white text. If anyone knows Logan Price, please contact me. 2 hours later, Eleanor's office phone rang. Her assistant transferred the call to Caleb. A family named Sullivan had an outstanding bill for $47,000 at the Whitmore Grand Miami Beach. The credit card on file had been declined 16 times. The video had 2.3 million views by Thursday. My mother was in frame for 11 seconds screaming at a hotel receptionist while my father stood behind her, hands in his pockets, staring at the floor like a man watching his life leave without him. Margot sent the link. Is this your family? I pressed play at my kitchen table with a mug of cold coffee beside my laptop. The footage was shaky, filmed by a guest in the lobby, phone held low, half hidden. But the audio was crisp. The Whitmore Grand Lobby. Marble floors. A crystal chandelier that scattered light across the ceiling like a frozen constellation. And there at the reception desk, my mother in a wrinkled silk blouse pointing her finger at a young woman in a hotel blazer. My daughter's boyfriend is a very important investor. He will pay. Call him. The receptionist, calm professional, 23 at most, replied without flinching. Ma'am, the card has been declined 16 times. We need an alternative payment method, or we'll have to escalate the matter. Escalate, escalate. Do you know who? The camera panned right. Brooke on a lobby sofa, mascara streaked knees pulled to her chest. My father beside her, grave-faced, motionless. 2 suitcases at their feet like tombstones. The caption from whoever filmed it. This family checked in on someone else's card, ran up a $47,000 tab, and now can't pay. Comments were rolling. The audacity. Call the police. This is a whole Netflix series. Someone had already stitched it with a reaction video. Someone else had added a soundtrack. I watched it 3 times. My hands were cold. I should have felt satisfaction. I didn't. I felt the dull gray weight of watching people you once loved become strangers on a screen. Margot called 20 minutes later. They're going to call you. I know. Document everything? I know. My mother called at 4:17 p.m., first time since. Don't come back. Her voice was hoarse, but still controlled the voice of a woman who'd been yelling at hotel staff for 3 days and still believed volume was a strategy. Wren, I need you to wire $47,000 to this resort immediately. This is a family emergency. No hello. No, I'm sorry. No acknowledgement that the last words she'd said to me were, "Don't come back until you learn what family means." Just a number and a demand. You told me not to come back, I said. This is not about that. Your sister is humiliated. People are filming us. We're on the internet, Wren. If you have any decency. You drove 1,847 miles for a birthday party on my wedding day. Now you need me to pay for it. Silence. 3 seconds. I counted. If you'd just invested like everyone else, none of this would have happened. I hung up. Brooke texted 20 minutes later. No emoji, no attitude, no Instagram inflection. Just words typed by someone who'd been crying for days. Please, Wren, they won't let us leave. Logan took everything. I'm scared. I stared at that message for a long time. It was the first honest thing my sister had sent me in years. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it. That evening, I was sitting on the couch, laptop open, when something in the video caught my eye. I'd been watching it again, not for the spectacle, but for the details. The lobby, the marble, the chandelier, the logo behind the reception desk. A gold W in an oval. Elegant, Distinctive. Familiar. I zoomed in. The resolution held. Whitmore Grand. Miami Beach. My eyes moved from the screen to the kitchen wall. A framed photo Eleanor had given us as a housewarming gift to the Whitmore family at the grand opening of the Miami Beach property in 2001. Same lobby, same chandelier, same gold W. Caleb. He was rinsing dishes. He turned off the faucet and walked over, drying his hands on a towel. What's the name of your family's resort in Miami Beach? He looked at my screen, the video, the lobby, the woman screaming at his family's employee. He didn't speak for 5 seconds. That's the Whitmore Grand. I looked at the video. I looked at Caleb. I looked at the video. My family is trapped inside your family's hotel. Caleb set the dish towel on the counter. He looked at the video one more time, then at me. What do you want to do? I didn't answer right away. I was thinking about 25 empty chairs, a folder named receipts, and a mother who told 23 people my wedding wasn't worth their Saturday. I want to go to Miami, I said. We booked the 6 a.m. flight to Miami. Caleb packed a carry-on. I packed a folder. That night, I sat at the kitchen table and called Margot. It was 11 p.m. She picked up on the second ring like she'd been waiting. I need a promissory note, I said, legally binding, for the full amount. $47,000, plus 5% annual interest, first payment in 90 days. I heard her typing. I'll have it drafted by morning. Wren, if they don't sign, the resort has grounds to file a police report. Theft of services. That's a felony in Florida. I know. What do you want out of this? Honestly. I looked at the kitchen wall. The photo of the Whitmore grand opening. Eleanor cutting a ribbon. Caleb at 9 years old standing beside her in an oversized blazer grinning. I want them to understand that actions have signatures, I said. Literal ones. I called Eleanor next. She listened without interrupting, a skill my mother had never learned. When I finished, the line was quiet for a long time. That resort has been in our family for 23 years, she said. Your mother screamed at my staff. My staff. A breath. Go. Handle it. But handle it like a Whitmore with grace. I didn't sleep. At 4 a.m., I opened the folder Margot had emailed, the promissory note, clean and precise, 2 pages of legal language that reduced $47,000 of chaos to black ink on white paper. I printed it on our home printer. The ink was low. The second page came out slightly faded. It didn't matter. The words were clear. I added 3 more things to the folder. The screenshot of my mother's group chat message. She'll be fine. She always is. The mileage comparison, 1,847 miles to Miami, 40 minutes to Birchwood Meadow. And 1 photo. The wedding portrait Margot had taken on her phone. 30 people on Caleb's side, 5 on mine. 25 white chairs catching the afternoon light. I didn't know if I'd show them. I just wanted to carry the weight of it with me. To hold the evidence in my hands the way you hold a stone before you decide whether to throw it or set it down. Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport, 5:30 a.m. The terminal smelled like Cinnabon and jet fuel. Caleb bought 2 coffees. We sat at the gate. He read a book about fermentation. I read the promissory note for the 4th time. On the plane, Caleb fell asleep before takeoff. I stared out the window. Clouds. Flat white, endless. Somewhere below us, 1,847 miles of highway stretched between Minneapolis and Miami Beach, the same miles my family had driven for Brooke's birthday, past every exit they could have taken to Birchwood Meadow. I need to pause here. If you've ever packed a bag knowing you were about to change everything, hit subscribe. Because what happened when we landed at that resort? I still get chills thinking about it. Stay with me. The taxi from Miami International took 35 minutes. I watched the city change through the window, highway to boulevard to palm-lined avenue. The ocean appeared between buildings like a rumor, then like a fact. The Whitmore Grand rose from the coastline like a white cathedral. 12 stories, glass and limestone, the gold W gleaming above the entrance in the afternoon sun. Caleb squeezed my hand. You ready? No, but I'm done waiting to be ready. The taxi stopped. A doorman in a charcoal uniform opened Caleb's door. He looked at Caleb's face. His posture changed subtle, immediate the way a compass needle finds north. Mr. Whitmore? A slight bow. Welcome home, sir? Caleb nodded. Thank you, James. We walked through the glass doors into the lobby. Marble floors, crystal chandelier, gold trim on every surface. The same room I'd watched on a shaky phone video 3 days ago. And there, on the leather couches near the reception desk, sat my entire family. Luggage at their feet. Wrinkled clothes, the posture of people who'd been sitting in the same spot for too long. My mother saw me first. Her mouth opened. Then she saw who was holding my hand. And for the first time in my life, my mother had nothing to say. My mother stood up from that leather couch like she was rising from a grave. Her blouse was wrinkled. Her mascara had migrated. But her voice still had the audacity to sound like she was in charge. Finally. She smoothed her blouse with trembling hands. Took you long enough. Tell them to release us. This is ridiculous. She looked at Caleb. Up and down. The same inventory she'd taken at every Sunday dinner, the jeans, the Henley, the absence of anything that looked like money. And your little chef came too. This isn't the time, Wren. I need you to handle this. Caleb said nothing. His hands were in his pockets. He looked at the lobby the way a person looks at their childhood bedroom, familiar, unchanged, smaller than they remembered. Behind us, the elevator opened. A man in a tailored navy suit stepped out, mid-50s, silver at the temples, the kind of posture that comes from decades of 5-star hospitality. He saw Caleb and stopped mid-stride. Mr. Whitmore? Martin, the general manager, crossed the lobby in 4 steps. His hand extended. His voice carried the warm formality of someone greeting a head of state. We weren't expecting you, sir. Your suite is always ready. Shall I? That won't be necessary, Martin. I'm here about the Sullivan account. The lobby went still. My mother's mouth was open, but the words she'd been forming died somewhere between her tongue and the air. Brooke lifted her head from the couch. My father's hands froze in his lap. Whitmore. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. As in, this hotel? Martin turned to her with the patient professionalism of a man who had watched her scream at his receptionist for 3 days. Mr. Whitmore's family has owned this property for 23 years, ma'am. 3 seconds of silence. I counted them the way you count the space between lightning and thunder. Then my mother's CPU rebooted. The transformation was instant, mechanical, almost biological, like watching a chameleon shift colors on a branch. The wrinkled blouse became irrelevant. The mascara streaks became invisible. Her spine straightened, her chin lifted, and a smile wide, bright, grotesque in its sincerity spread across her face like spilled paint. Well... She clapped her hands together. Why didn't anyone tell me? She spun toward the reception desk, toward the same young woman she'd screamed at in a video seen by 2.3 million people. The receptionist's name tag said Anna. Anna, who was 23, and had handled my mother with more composure than any human should be expected to maintain. You, my mother pointed. You were so rude to me. Do you know who my son-in-law is? He owns this hotel. She stepped closer. I want you to apologize, right now, on your knees. Anna looked at Caleb. Caleb shook his head, a movement so small only someone watching for it would have caught it. My mother turned to Caleb, arms wide, voice dripping with a warmth she'd never once aimed in his direction. Caleb, sweetheart, tell them. Tell them we're family. This is all just a big misunderstanding. The lobby held its breath. 2 guests near the bar had stopped talking. A bellhop stood frozen with a luggage cart. Martin's jaw was set. We're family. I stepped forward. My mother turned to me. The smile flickered. You told 23 people to skip my wedding. One step. You drove 1,847 miles for a birthday party on the same day. Another step. You called my husband a little chef. Another. You told me not to come back until I learned what family means. Diane backed up. Her heel caught the edge of the reception desk. Now you're standing in his hotel wearing clothes you bought with money you lost to a man I warned you about asking his employees to kneel. I stopped, 2 feet from her face. You skipped my wedding for a party. Now you're begging at my husband's hotel. We didn't. You never said You never asked. I opened the folder. The promissory note. 2 pages. Clean. Final. I placed it on the reception desk the way a dealer places the last card. This is a promissory note for $47,000. The amount your family owes this resort. You sign it, the bill is settled, and you leave. You don't sign it, Martin files a police report for theft of services. That's a felony in Florida. My mother stared at the document, then at me, then at Caleb, then at Martin. 4 compass points all leading to the same conclusion. You can't do this to your own mother. You're right. A mother wouldn't do this. I held her gaze. But then again, a mother would have come to my wedding. The sound that came out of Wren Sullivan was something between a gasp and a word that never fully formed. Her hand reached for the desk to steady herself. The Mont Blanc knockoff she kept in her purse, the same pen she'd used to write Logan an $85,000 check, was the pen she used to sign the promissory note. Her signature was shaky. The S in Sullivan trailed off like a sound fading out. My father signed next. He didn't look up. He signed the way he'd lived, with his head down and his eyes on someone else's decision. Brooke stood from the couch. She walked to the desk slowly. Her eyes were swollen. Her sundress was wrinkled. She looked at me, not with anger, not with strategy, not with the Instagram smile or the birthday queen confidence. She looked at me the way someone looks at a person they're seeing clearly for the first time. She signed. I folded the document, placed it in the folder, closed the folder. Caleb spoke for the second time. He turned to Martin. Process the Sullivan account against the family reserve. I'll handle the paperwork Monday. Yes, sir. Caleb put his hand on the small of my back. We turned toward the glass doors. The Miami sun was pouring through them, white, blinding warm. I walked through the lobby, past the marble, past the chandelier, past the couch where my family had sat for 3 days waiting for someone to rescue them, and past the desk where a 23-year-old receptionist named Anna had shown more dignity under pressure than my mother had shown in a lifetime. I didn't look back. The glass doors closed behind us. The heat hit my face. The ocean was a thin blue line beyond the palm trees. Caleb's hand was on my back. We were halfway to the airport when my phone buzzed. A text from Brooke. No emoji, no excuses. Just 6 words. I'm sorry. You were right. They drove back to Minneapolis in a rented minivan. 1,847 miles. No resort. No champagne. No Instagram stories. Just 4 people in a car with nothing to say and nowhere to go. I know this because Brooke told Margot, and Margot told me. The drive took 27 hours. They split it into 2 days with a motel stop in Georgia, a Motel 6 off $79 a night. My mother, who 6 weeks earlier had been sipping cocktails at a resort that charged $900 a night, slept on a mattress with a cigarette burn on the fitted sheet. Nobody spoke for the first 6 hours. Brooke drove. Gary sat in the passenger seat. Diane sat in the back with her arms crossed and her eyes closed, though Brooke said she never actually slept. She was just performing sleep the way she performed everything else to avoid being present for the parts of life she didn't want to acknowledge. 4 days after they returned to Minneapolis, my doorbell rang. I opened the door. Diane and Gary. 2 rolling suitcases. My mother was wearing lipstick. She'd prepared a face. "Baby." Her voice was soft, careful, a voice I hadn't heard since I was 8, and she wanted me to behave at a neighbor's dinner party. "We made terrible mistakes, I know that. But we're your parents. We have nowhere to go." Gary stood behind her holding both suitcase handles like a man holding on to the last solid things in his life. "The house is sold," Diane continued. "The money is gone. All we have is each other. Please just let us stay for a few weeks. Just until we're back on our feet." She reached for my hand. I let her take it. Her fingers were cold. "And maybe," she said, and here it came, the real ask, sliding in under the grief like a knife under a door. "Maybe you and Caleb could help with a small monthly allowance. Just temporary. Just until—" "A few weeks," I said, "and a monthly allowance. From the daughter whose wedding wasn't worth your Saturday." Her fingers tightened on mine. "Wren, please." "The daughter you told 23 people to ignore. The daughter whose husband you called a little chef. The daughter you threw out of your house for telling the truth about a man who stole everything you had." I pulled my hand back. "We are your parents." The softness was gone. The lipstick remained, but the mask beneath it had cracked, and through the crack came the same voice that had said, "Don't come back. You owe us, Wren. After everything I owe you $47,000 in promissory payments at 5% annual interest. First installment due in 90 days. That's what I owe you." I closed the door, gently. The latch caught with a soft click, the same sound it had made the night I left their house for the last time. Same sound. Different side of the door. Through the window, I watched them stand on the step for 11 seconds. Diane stared at the door as though it might change its mind. Gary picked up the suitcases. They walked to a taxi that had been waiting at the curb with the meter running. The dominoes fell quickly after that. Diane and Gary rented a studio apartment in Richfield, South Minneapolis, the kind of complex with coin-operated laundry and parking spots assigned by number. Diane got a part-time job at a department store in the Mall of America. She stood behind a counter selling perfume to strangers. The woman who'd once told me retail was beneath her now sprayed samples onto cardboard strips and smiled for commission. The video from the Whitmore Grand kept climbing 4.7 million views by the end of the month. Someone at Diane's new job recognized her. She transferred to a different floor within a week. Gary started doing freelance bookkeeping from the Hennepin County Library. He posted an ad on Craigslist. His first client paid him $400 to reconcile 6 months of receipts for a food truck. The irony of that, a food truck sat somewhere in the universe keeping score. Logan Price surfaced 3 months later. Not voluntarily. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center had opened a case after 4 other families in 3 states filed reports: interstate wire fraud, securities fraud, identity theft. They found him in Toronto, living in a rented condo under the name Lucas Park. Total stolen across all victims $2.1 million. The Sullivan family's $187,000 was the second largest single loss. Brooke didn't come to my door with suitcases. She didn't call. She didn't text me directly. She rented a room in a house in Northeast Minneapolis, $650 a month shared kitchen, and got a job as a barista at a coffee shop on Lyndale Avenue. Her first paycheck was $487 after taxes. She deleted her influencer account. All 38,000 followers. All the flat lays and the smoothie bowls and the birthday queen selfies. She started a new account. 0 followers, 0 posts. A blank page. The only contact she made was through Margot. A single message: "Tell Wren I'm not asking for anything. I just want her to know I got a job." Margot relayed it over the phone. I listened. I didn't respond. But something in my chest shifted. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever. But recognition. The faint, cautious recognition that a person might be trying to become someone different than who they were. 3 months later, a card arrived. No return address. No Hallmark logo. Just a plain white card in Brooke's handwriting, the same handwriting I used to find on notes taped to my bedroom door when we were kids. The card said 3 sentences. No excuses. No requests. Just 3 sentences that made me sit at my desk for a very long time. Wren, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know I got a job. I got my own apartment. And I'm learning to be the kind of person who deserves a sister like you. If it takes years, I'll wait. B. I read it twice. Then I set it on my desk next to my monitor and a mug of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. I didn't write back. I didn't throw it away. 6 months had passed since the Whitmore Grand. Caleb and I moved into a house, a small craftsman in Minnetonka, 20 minutes from the lake with a porch that wrapped around 2 sides, and a detached garage I converted into a studio. Caleb planted an herb garden along the south wall. Basil, thyme, rosemary, cilantro. He said it was for the restaurants. I knew it was for the pasta he made me every Thursday night, lemon capers, and whatever herb was growing fastest that week. I signed the largest contract of my career that spring, a full rebrand for a national organic restaurant chain. Visual identity packaging system, digital campaign menu design. The creative director had found my portfolio through a referral from a client I'd worked with the year before. She never mentioned Caleb's name. She never knew it. I earned that project the way I'd earned everything, by being good at something nobody in my family had ever bothered to notice. Caleb opened the 4th Evergreen Kitchen location in St. Paul. Eleanor came for the ribbon cutting. She wore a linen dress and orthopedic sandals and ate 2 plates of mushroom tacos and told every customer within earshot that her son was the only Whitmore with actual talent. On the wall of my studio, I hung the wedding photo. Margot's phone shot 30 people on Caleb's side, 5, on mine 25 empty chairs catching the light. I didn't hang it to punish myself. I hung it to remember that the emptiness I'd felt that day wasn't a wound anymore. It was a map showing me exactly where the love wasn't, so I'd never waste time looking there again. Diane made her first promissory payment in June, $783.33. Margot confirmed receipt. No note attached. No call. Just a transfer from a checking account at a credit union in Richfield, the kind of account you open when the banks that used to know your name don't anymore. Gary sent a letter through Margot in August. 2 paragraphs. No ask for money. No ask for housing. Just a quiet, clumsy attempt at something that might have been accountability. I should have listened to you. I should have stood up. I didn't, and I'll carry that. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to know that I think about it every day. I read it. I put it in a drawer. I didn't write back. But I didn't throw it away either. There's a difference between a closed door and a locked one. A closed door means I'm not ready. A locked one means I never will be. I wasn't ready to decide which one this was. And I'd learned that not deciding was its own kind of freedom. One evening in late September, I was sitting on the porch. Minnesota autumn. The oaks had gone copper and gold, and the air smelled like wood smoke and cold water. Caleb came out with 2 mugs. The good coffee. French press. The ritual, he said, calmed him after a long day of running restaurants that the whole world thought were his ceiling when they were actually his choice. He saw Brooke's card on my desk through the studio window. He'd seen it before. He never moved it. He never asked about it. Tonight he asked, "You gonna write back?" "I don't know yet." He sat beside me. The porch creaked. Somewhere down the block, a kid was bouncing a basketball in a driveway. Fireflies were starting up in the yard early for September, like they were running out of time and wanted one more night. "I used to think family meant the people who share your blood," I said. "Now I think it means the people who show up when there's nothing in it for them." Caleb sipped his coffee. "That's a good line. I've been workshopping it." He laughed. I laughed. The fireflies didn't care. Brooke's card is still on my desk. Some days I think about writing back. Some days I don't. She's 9 months into a job she didn't need anyone to get for her. She's paying rent with money she earned. She hasn't asked me for a single thing. If she were your sister, would you open the door, or would you leave the lock on? That's my story. If you made it this far, thank you. If you've ever been the empty chair at someone else's table, know this: you were never the problem. The people who stayed away were. Hit subscribe if this meant something to you. And tell me in the comments, would you open the door for Brooke? I read every single one.